to make this plate carrier, you're going to need some velcro. This is 1.25 inches, but it could be a little wider, could be a little narrower. Just make sure it doesn't have the adhesive on the back, and you have both the hook and the loop sides. Some wide elastic webbing. This stuff is 4 inches. It could be a little narrower, but probably want to have at least 4 inch width for this plate carrier. You have whatever material you're going to use for the main body of the plate carrier itself. This is just ripstop nylon. It's the cheapest stuff I could find off Amazon. This is like 2 square yards of it, and it was like $10. So you can get decent fabric pretty cheap. So what I've already done is I've already cut a piece of cardboard to mark what I'm going to cut the fabric blanks into. How I came to this shape is I took one of my panels and I basically just traced over the bottom half of it, leaving myself enough room to make the stitch. So once these little flaps fold in, you see you have about 1/2 inch on each side of it. That way once you sew it, you'll still have room for the plate to fit inside. And then this goes to right the center line of my shoulder once these curve around the top. Once we trace this out on the fabric, we're going to cut out 4 of these, but they're not all going to be exactly the same. 2 of them are going to be like this, and 2 of them are going to be slightly different. The first one we're going to mark just pretty much as is, except we're going to add a little bit to the top of the shoulders, because you can always cut it off, but you can't add it once it's already gone. Okay, and there's our 2 smaller panels. What we're about to do next is add about 3 inches, doesn't have to be exact, to the bottom of your panel. And what this is going to be the flap that goes up and under, that's going to hold your plate up inside of the carrier. So same shape as before, you're going to leave about 3 inches on the bottom, and that's going to be your flap you're going to tuck. So just mark it the exact same way. And then you're going to do another one exactly like that also. So you're going to have 2 identical sets. The longer ones are going to be the outsides, and the shorter ones are going to be the insides of your plate carrier. There we go. Now we have all 4 of our pieces marked in the fabric. Now we just have to cut them all out. So after cutting the pieces out, what we're left with is 2 identical longer pieces and 2 identical shorter pieces. And what we're going to do is we're going to take one of the shorter pieces and one of the longer pieces, and that's going to make half of our carrier. It's going to be the front or the back, it doesn't matter, because they're both going to be about the same. So what we're going to do first is flip over the material so we can see that the wrong side is facing out. That way both the nice high color pieces of the fabric are facing inward. So now basically this is inside out at this point. What we're going to do is we're just going to sew all the way around the edges, except for right up here at the very top, because we're going to leave that open. Come in here at the bottom, and we're going to fold over the edge and sew that just to trim up the edge and make it look nicer. So that's what we're going to do now, is we're going to sew around the edge and make this an enclosed carrier just inside out. Alright, so there that is. This is going to be the front panel of the plate carrier. You can see if you turn it inside out, or right side out I guess, that's going to look a lot cleaner. Just a quick test fit, and it looks like our plate's going to fit in there perfectly. Room up at the top, room at the bottom to close. Nice. Alright, now we're just going to basically do the exact same thing again with the other 2 pieces, except for we're going to stop sewing when we get to right about here, because from right here we're going to sew in a piece of this elastic webbing about 1 inch up from the bottom of the shorter panel, which is going to be the strap that wraps around and velcros to the front to hold it on. Alright, when you get down this far, what you're going to do is you're going to take your roll and you're going to hold it to about the midpoint where your belly button is and stretch it around until it gets to about your 4 o'clock position. And on me, that's about this long. So I'll take that much of this bungee and I'll cut it off. And then make myself a second piece the exact same length and I'll cut that off. And then I'll take a lighter and I'll fuse the ends because this stuff will unravel pretty quick if you don't fuse the ends of it. One really important part about this is you got to leave the long part, the tail, on the inside of this. That way when you turn it right side out, it'll be on the outside. So you can stick it on the inside and leave it about 1 inch up from the bottom of the shorter piece and sew it into place. You're just going to do that by sewing down the edge just like you were before, but with the elastic sandwiched in the middle of it. Alright, and we'll give it a fit test. Once again, fits perfect. Cool, we'll keep on trucking. Now we're just going to, like we did on the other one, fold this over and run a stitch all the way around the edge of this just to help mend those edges. The next step is to take some of the Velcro. I like to use the thinner piece for this, and you're going to put a strip on the edge of the inside of the longer flap, and then you're going to fold it up, and wherever it lands you're going to sew the other strip to the inside of the shorter piece, and that way you can slide your plate in, then Velcro the flap closed to hold it in, and then the flap is going to be against your body, and that's just going to be doubly sure that the Velcro can't come undone and your plate's not going to fall out, and it's going to lead to a completely slick front of the carrier. So I like to put the loop side on the part that's up top here and the hook side on the flap itself. That way when the flap's in, just in case you don't match it up just right, you don't have the hook side of the Velcro here up against your body scratching at you. Okay, once you have this one sewed on, what you're going to want to do is you're going to take your plate, slide it up inside of here, and fold this up to wherever it needs to be. Make sure it's nice and snug and mark it. That way you aren't going to have any extra room inside there for your plate to slide around. It's going to be nice and tight. So get it nice and tight, then mark where your Velcro corners are going to be at. So there's the front piece of your plate carrier. And you see that once you slide the plate up inside of here, you'll be able to just tuck this up and Velcro it off. It's nice and snug. So the next thing we gotta do, with this being the front, we gotta put some Velcro strips across the front here for these pieces of elastic on the back to wrap around to. So we're gonna do that next. For that we're gonna use the loop side of this wider Velcro. We're just gonna measure it across the front, cut a piece, and then cut a second piece that exact same length, because we'll put 2 strips parallel like this so that the piece of Velcro we have on the end of our elastic strap will be able to contact more surface area. Overlay this piece on the front so we know how far up this band is going to measure, and we can just mark lining up the bottom of this with the bottom of that there and there. So then we'll know to keep the two pieces of Velcro between these two spots. Alright, now there's the front, and it is done. Now all we have to do is take the back, and we're going to sew some pieces of the hook side Velcro to the insides of the bungee strips. That way whenever they loop around, they can grab to the Velcro here on the front. So just going to take some of the hook side Velcro, measure it out the same length as the width of the bungee. Making sure that you have the back facing the correct direction with the flap folding inward. You're going to put the Velcro and sew it right here. I like to fold over the end of this bungee first and sew it over like that. Gives you a little bit better end to grab a hold of, and that way it can't fray either. If you were just doing this to where you're going to sew them together and not make it adjustable, you could slide a little bit of foam inside of here before you sewed it up and then make this a bit padded. But I want to keep it as slim as possible, so I'm just going to skip that. Okay, so we are going to now sew a piece of Velcro onto the inside and outsides of these shoulder straps right here. I need to put some loop on the top of the front panel piece. I'm going to put loop here and here, and then on the inside of the back panel I'm going to put a little bit of hook like that and that. Alright, there's that. So once again, you got to be certain, you're really careful that you're getting all these lined up the right way. So if this is right there, then we're going to have to sew the hook to the inside of these pieces. That way it can come over and attach. Alright, so now this thing should be completely done. We can slide our plates back in. And we can put both of these shoulder straps adjusted to about the same location. We can adjust them independently once we try it on. There we go. There's a carrier.